All right, how to write a rhetorical précis. A rhetorical précis is a 4 to 5 sentence summary of an article, a nonfiction text. Some of students tend to say that a rhetorical précis is a great way to summarize a text that's maybe a little bit more complex or that has a lot of ideas in it. And it's also a great format to use maybe in other classes if you're asked to summarize something. It's a reading tool and a writing tool. And it's best done after you've really annotated and worked with an article. It's really hard to write a précis if you haven't reread it a couple times and done the rereading work to really know the text really well. Sentence 1 is basically your general information. The author, the title, the genre, like is it a podcast, a news article, an interview, the year it was published, and a quick little snapshot, starting with a verb, of the argument the author is presenting. So the major assertion or the thesis statement in the work. Here's an example. In the article, End Homework Now, 2001, Etta Kralovic and John Buell claim that the practice of assigning homework is not an effective teaching method because its negative effects outweigh its benefits. So there's the basic information of the text and the claim that the author is presenting. Sentence 2 is how does the author prove the claim? So sentence 1 states the claim. Sentence 2 is a walkthrough of the steps the author takes to actually convince the reader of the claim. Kralovic and Buell support their claim by first providing examples of how homework disrupts families. Then they discuss how homework overburdens children and limits learning. And then they dispel myths about the benefits of homework. And finally, they conclude by providing alternative practices that would lead to improvement in student achievement. So those are the 4 things that this author does to try to prove their claim in order. One thing else about that I wanted to mention about sentence 2 is that if you have done your backwards outline, if you've already gone through and mapped out the structure of the text, this becomes really, really easy because all you have to do is decide what are the 4 chunks. Where's the intro? Where's the conclusion? What's the stuff in the middle? And in this specific case, the writer of this précis decided that the 4 things they did were first they provided examples, then they had a discussion within the article, then they kind of provided a rebuttal to counterclaims by dispelling myths, then they conclude by providing alternative suggestions. Okay, sentence 3 gets a little easier in sentence 3. This is the author's purpose, followed by an order to phrase. For purpose, think about what the author wanted to convince us of. Think about why the author wrote the text. And for the in order to phrase, think about the change that the author wants to happen as a result of this text. In this example, sentence 3 is the purpose of the article is to make the reader question a practice that is a tradition of the U.S. education system in order to help create better learning practices in schools. So his why is he wants his readers to question a tradition of the U.S. education system. Why? Well, to think about it in a more broad sense, why does he want us to question that? Well, he wants the reader to question it so that he can start to bring about change in learning practices in schools. So when you think about that in order to phrase, think about on a larger scale, what maybe societal change the author wants to happen as a result of this article, this publication. All right. In sentence 4, you get into audience and tone. So this is where you really think about the rhetorical situation of the text. What was the setting? Who was the original intended audience for the piece? And what is the tone? How is the tone, or what tone is the author presenting within the text? So the example is the author uses a preachy tone and seems to be speaking to the entire educational community, administrators, teachers, students, and parents. Keep in mind the audience isn't necessarily who has the text now, it's who the author wanted to reach. And in this case, it was the educational community. And it looks like they were kind of using a preachy tone within this text. For the tone, always look back to your tone words. For the audience, again, think about who the author was originally trying to reach with this text. For this whole 4-sentence or 5-sentence rhetorical précis, make sure that you're using your verb handout and also your tone handout to make really educated decisions about how the author is presenting their information, so tone, and then also what verbs you could use to really capture what the author is doing within the text. Okay, sentence 5, some teachers might ask for sentence 5, some might leave it out. A description of how the work is significant. Think about what it adds to the conversation. So obviously there's a reason this author wrote this text. There's a rhetorical situation to this text. Think about what this author had to say and why it matters in context of the ongoing conversation happening. So in case you didn't know, there's an ongoing conversation happening all the time in the education world about homework and how much to assign, how much not to assign, if it's good or if it's not good. And so there was a reason that this specific text, published in 2001, it was significant to the whole argument. And it's because the authors are aggressively asking the readers to question a standard that is a no-brainer in schools today. So it adds to the conversation because it challenges something that most people don't think about challenging. So this work is significant because the authors aggressively question a practice that is a standard no-brainer in schools today. Think about what this text or what these ideas bring that's new to the conversation. Here's what that looks like all put together. Very great, concise, and surprisingly detailed way to summarize an article. This is, again, a reading tool, it's a writing tool, and it's a summary tool. It can be really, really effective. In the article End Homework Now, 2001, Etta Kralovic and John Buell claim that the practice of assigning homework is not an effective teaching method because its negative effects outweigh its benefits. Kralovic and Buell support their claims by first providing examples of how homework disrupts families, then they discuss how homework overburdens children and limits learning, and then they dispel myths about the benefits of homework, and finally they conclude by providing alternative practices that would lead to improvement in student achievement. The purpose of the article is to make the reader question a practice that is a tradition of the U.S. education system in order to help create better learning practices in schools. The author uses a preachy tone and seems to be speaking to the entire educational community, administrators, teachers, students, and parents. The work is significant because the authors aggressively question a practice that is a standard no-brainer in schools today. Notice how after you read that paragraph, you pretty much don't have to read the article because it's a walkthrough of pretty much exactly what the article contains, the examples that are used, the structure, and all of the other important details. That's your goal with the précis, is to write a précis that's so strong and solid that your reader then doesn't really need to go and read the article in the first place because they have this wonderful summary in front of them. Okay, that's how to write a rhetorical précis. Good luck as you practice these skills on your own. All right, thank you.